Okay. So we have, if I can keep it still in the bumps, this car's a little bumpy. We're cheating a little bit by turning it to medium. We're at 41.5 degrees, 41.7 coming out of this vent, and probably lower even if I cranked it down a little further. So, and this is still probably about 80 degrees out right now. So when we get out of this car, both of our glasses sets will fog right up. So we're not Vanilla Ice, but when we're done with this, it's going to be really, really cold. We are here with the 1993 Grand Am, and we are going to actually recharge the system. So you can actually see us replace most of this system, unfortunately, in the link here, I think, or down there somewhere. There's going to be a link. And now we're actually going to recharge the system and get it almost as cold as humanly possible within the limits of this system. So we have a Advanced Auto manifold kit. Don't get the Harbor Freight one. I buy a lot of Harbor Freight tools. The Harbor Freight ones have gone through them fairly quickly. This one's lasted a couple years, so it's about the same price. Just go straight for the Advanced Auto, the Quest version.
Yes. Harbor Freight one, the hoses are absolute garbage. Almost took out my eye. Brand new. Hose exploded.
Yeah.
60 pounds of pressure, rated at 300, exploded.
So we've got one of these manifolds. The system had already been emptied.
This is Harbor Freight. You can buy a vacuum pump at Harbor Freight.
Yeah. So we have a
vacuum pump. Vacuum pump.
So we have a vacuum pump. The link and everything will be in the description. Step one is make sure all your connections are good. If you have a vehicle that has an evap tube or an orifice tube, this would be the time to replace it. In addition, replacing the accumulator can.
Receiver dryer.
Receiver dryer. That is also a good thing to replace when you have no Freon in the system. There's nothing to leak out when you replace it.
If you replace your compressor, required, otherwise it voids your warranty.
Correct. And orifice tube, otherwise it voids your warranty, and all sorts of things.
Flush your system.
See your compressor warranty for specific details. So on this car, we have already replaced the receiver dryer. We've replaced most of the AC hoses and bits and seals. We have run the vacuum, got it down to negative 30 psi, and held it.
It's not PSI. PSI vacuum is rated in a G. Not PSI.
Whatever, inches per kilo, inches mercury, whatever. So that has held it for overnight, so we are good on that. So our next step is...
There are two sides, high side, low side. Compressor pulls in vacuum, pulls in Freon on low side, receives high pressure, which is your high, is also your hot side. Do not ever attempt to inject Freon into the hot side. It shouldn't fit. If you're making it fit, that's a bigger problem, but you can get severely injured by opening up any venting on your high side. Very hot, very high pressure.
Yes.
Don't do it.
The AC system works via a heat pump system, and I'll actually have a link in the description of a really good overview of heat pumps and their associated everything.
You will see then the high side will go up because Freon, the low side will not because it's not connected. The system that we're using, this gauge set, was originally designed to inject Freon from a 30-pound tank, which we don't have. I ran out, so we had to buy cans like you would pick up. In this case,
36 ounces.
Walmart cans. So 36 ounces are 12-ounce cans, 12, 24, 36. It should be 3 cans should put us at the level where we need to be. The first can or so, I'm going to just inject. You should be seeing that it's climbing over there because it was negative, pinned out against the thing negatively.
We've also added the requisite 8 ounces of PAG 150 oil. It's specific to, that's what this specific model takes. Definitely consult a manual or a service chart for what your model requires in terms of oil. You usually don't have to replace it unless you'll completely vacuum the system out,
Unless it says. A lot of them are shipped with what they call shipping oil, and you have to dump it all out and refill it with the amount of oil required for your system. Some of them are shipped with the correct amount of oil in them, and they're labeled as such.
And you should not have to do that if you were just refilling the Freon, correct?
Correct. If you just refill the Freon and you have not taken the compressor and the other tank off, then you do not have to add any oil. Okay, so we are ready to start the system up. This can is basically empty.
All right. So for the most part, you have to do this while the car is running, because otherwise it's really hard to have it processed properly. So we're going to...
Open the garage door so we don't die of carbon monoxide.
Yes!
Unfortunately, it's dark out, so the lights are on, so it's going to bring in insects, but it happens. Hose is out of the way so nothing gets stuck into the belts. Turn AC on, turn it to max AC, full fan, and go from there.
Alright, so we have max AC, high fan. I don't have a thermometer, but you can get we typically use digital meat thermometers and stick it in the vent. And that's how we get our temperature readings inside. Okay.
AC was not on, now it's on. The compressor is cycling. High side is flowing pressure, roughly 100 pounds. When the compressor is on, it pulls the Freon in from the can to create suction on the low side, basically sucks the Freon in. As you add Freon, it builds pressure on the high side. You cannot add it in large amounts. You have to add it slowly, stop. Some people charge it with the cans right side up, it's gas only. I've always been doing it. I charge them in, run it as a liquid, I add it very slow. And when I'm done, charging it for the right amount with the cans upside down, we run it at my wife's town car, 32 degrees inside the car.
So 1.5 cans are at about 120 psi.
Some point we'll have to switch it out with the low side gauge, because this normally we use the ones kind of like so that you can inject it and then also read what your settings at. You're using these types, but this one is not fit our current cans, so we're stuck with injecting and then switch it over to connect this back to our gauges to read the low side of our system.
The nice thing about having the manifold gauges is you can see both sides. If you just get the little trigger gauges like Drug Idea just displayed, they only show you the low side. So your low side could be within spec, but if there's a problem with your system, the high side will spike.
What most people have, they have a blockage in the system, which is usually what's called Orifice, with a small screen. There's a blockage in the screen, and the low side is reading normal. The high side, after it's cooled, when it comes back around, and then so if you pull back through the system after it's run through the condenser, it's really hot, it's not cooling down, it's not converting back to the gas, the liquid back to the gas, and coming through, it's jamming up in that tube, and the tube is plugged up, and the high side is reading almost 300, and there you go. Next thing you know, you get nothing but hot air back in the car. I was like, well, I added cans of Freon, but my AC is still really, really hot, because you have a obstruction in the system that you did not fix. You're just adding more Freon, but you do not need. You're also supposed to do this outside in ambient temperature, which if your outside temperature is 90 degrees, and you're working from there, that's when your optimal time to work on it, when it's hot outside. But then you want to know that if your car gets really, really cold on a 90-degree day, as opposed to getting really, really cold on a 70-degree day. Big difference in operations. 2 cans in, 24 ounces of charge. We'll show you what the low side, what that means. So now currently, the low side is reading about 25. High side is reading about 185, almost 190. Inside the garage on a relatively
compressor side, it's not even the center vent, it's on the outside, which is going to be the warmer of the two sets of vents.
We're at 49 and dropping with 2 cans of Freon, that's 24 ounces. It says it takes 3 full cans, which is 3 full cans will put us pretty much in spec of where we want to be. Main thing when you're charging these is if you overcharge them, what will happen is the compressor has too much Freon, it over-compresses, there's not enough space, there's too much gas and liquid inside the compressor, there's not enough space for the compressor to basically do what it's doing, and it will actually start to seize up, you'll hear it start to squeal and make really loud noises, which is not good.
And depending on the model, it may or may not emergency vent out the back, spraying out a ton of your Freon, a ton of your oil, making a mess.
There is a emergency fire on the compressor. There's a funny little valve. That is if it builds up too much pressure, it'll emergency blow out all your Freon down until it reaches a safe level, and then it closes automatically and shuts off. When it does that, you've lost a lot of Freon, and you got problems. Where are we at? We're currently at 48.4 degrees Fahrenheit. 48.4. 48.4 high side is under 200 still. It should be up at this time temperature at this time of night. It should be around 250, running at 40. It can get as high as 300 and still be within range and not be to the point where you gotta worry, oh my god, I'm gonna blow my system up. So we're literally breaking 200 now. About half a can. Where we at now temperature wise? That's cold. I can feel it's going through the glove. You have to add the Freon slowly, add some, let go, let it pull in, let it compress, convert from liquid to gas, gas to liquid, etc. Back and forth. Add some more, let it sit, add some more, let it sit. Yeah, see, we're now 205, almost 207, back to 200. That's 47 and dropping at idle. As soon as you start to drive the car, the engine's going to be above it. So right now you're only at 800 RPM, 750. You get up to 1500, 1800, 20, 2000 RPMs. Your compressor's spinning much faster, do a lot more work. Your high side will definitely go up, your low side will definitely drop, and it'll get a shit ton colder inside the car.
And this is also idle with the fan on high, so it's pushing as much air past the internal units as possible, which means it's moving as much air. It doesn't have as much time to cool. If you run it on low, that thing will drop down to the low 40s.
You put it on a lower fan, you'll get less air that's colder because it gets a chance to get a little colder before it comes out. So you'll get a little bit less air at a much colder temperature. Alright, that's 3 full cans, that's 36 ounces. So now let's put our gauge on our low side, see where we're at. We're at about 28. You rev it up a little bit. To about 1500 RPMs, compressor stayed on. If you don't have enough Freon, as you get above 1500, 1700 RPMs, your low side building suction will get low. If you don't have enough Freon, your compressor will shut off because it drops below the threshold. The switch will shut off, and then it'll sit for a few seconds. This will build back pressure. It'll kick back on. You need to add more Freon. Ours stayed on, did not cycle, so we're good. Right where we want to be on the low side, where we are at 28, 29. Went down to about 25 when it was rev. We're at about 210 on the high side, sitting at idle. What was our inside temperature? 46.9. 46 at idle, which means if you hold it at high idle or you take it for a drive, 46 is probably going to drop down to about 38 degrees inside the car, which is pretty frosty. Okay. Before you disconnect your gauges, the low side, these gauges have little valves that you can open and close them. You open the valve. You do not just pop this off. You open the valve. It's super, super important so that it's not connected to the system. You spin the little valves it's open. So now the only pressure that's in the line is currently whatever's in the line. It does not affect the system. It's not open to there. In this case, because I don't have anything connected to the pump, I can, now that they're open, I can open these up. I only have 20, about 30, 40 pounds of pressure on the low side, vented it out. The high side, I still have 150 pounds of pressure inside this thing venting. If you were to just snap it off, you're going to have a ton of Freon come flying out at you. In this case, same thing. 150 pounds of Freon, ice cold Freon, blasting into your face with dye. In this case, I caught it in a paper towel and it's all over the glove, so it's not crazy. But that would come flying out in your face if you weren't wearing glasses, or you just took this thing and snapped it off. That shit will come flying out in your face. You need to be careful. You need to be protected. Do not just come snapping these off. And even when you do this, now that I vented it, when I go to pull this off, paper towel on it, you're still going to hear it still pop, come off. So you do not just snap these things off. You have to open those things and you have to vent them. Otherwise, you could get injured. Do not do it.
And if you
first.
do it,
See, look at that.
we told
That
you not
much
to do it.
tiny little spritz of Freon. That was a clean paper towel when I started. That's from a tiny little spritz of Freon. That's the amount of dye and Freon came flying out of there. That was just out of the line after it was disconnected from the system. That was just what was stuck inside the line.
Good stuff.
It is not super important that you have caps on them, but you should, because you want them to stay clean. No dirt in there. There we go. System is capped. Lines are off.
All right.
Storage. These things with these gauges, if they do have them, they have little fittings to clip these on for storage. You put them on, leave them in the open position. This way they're on, they're clear. No dirt gets inside them. They stay clean. Super important, this way you don't contaminate your air conditioning system.
And now we are going to go take a test ride, and we will let you know what it gets down to. So we will be right back. Okay, so we have, if I can keep it still in the bumps, this car's a little bumpy, we're cheating a little bit by turning it to medium. We're at 41.5 degrees, 41.7 coming out of this vent, and probably lower even if I cranked it down a little further. So, and this is still probably about 80 degrees out right now. So when we get out of this car, both of our glasses sets will fog right up.
Peace.
Hey, that guy on camera. So that's it. Took it for a test drive, got it down to less than 42 degrees, running it on medium, average of about 46, 47 on high. That is ice cold for a 27-year-old car with some new parts and a new bits, if you do it properly. As always, I'm High Lord Fox. Car Guy Dave's over there. Thank you. Have a good night. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this content. And stay cool.